Hello there, time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Joining us this time around are John Cross, the Mirror's chief football writer, and Henry Winter, co-host of the Football Boardroom podcast. Welcome to you both, gents. Let's see what the Back Pages have brought us this time around. We'll start with the Daily Express. Gone in 106 days is the headline, as Chelsea sack Liam Rosenior after less than 4 months in charge. In the Mirror, they carry the same headline. Elsewhere, City make turf work of going to the summit as Man City see off Burnley. Laboured in parts, but they get the job done. And there's a mention of Spurs advertising for a sports psychologist in their bid to beat the drop. Chelsea Dagger is the Guardian's take on Rosenior's dismissal, with the paper saying his scathing post-match comments regarding his players' efforts against Brighton proved the final straw. Blues sack manager anger, says the Star, in a nod to one of Rosenior's previous statements that led him to be criticised by some section of the fan base. So John, Henry, really good to have you on. I think we've got a lot to discuss when it concerns Stamford Bridge, because as you will see, that was reflected on most of the back pages. Henry, I'll start with you first. Let me just get your reaction to this then. Liam Rosenior gone, less than 4 months in charge, 23 matches in all competitions, 11 wins. Your reaction?
Well, one of sadness, because Liam Rosenior, as we saw at Derby, Hull, Strasbourg, was a bright young coach, ambitious coach with a future. He's been chewed up by the Chelsea machine and all the issues that that club has under Bluco. Look, he had to go. You could see the body language between him and the players last night when he made those comments on TV. You knew the clock was ticking, because you can't throw your players under the bus in public and expect to escape from that. But I think the key element of the statement was the word self-reflection, which came from the board. And they absolutely need some self-reflection. They need to look at themselves in the mirror. This is Todd Bowley and Egg Barley. And actually think, are we going about this the right way? They've got this project, they've come in, they don't really understand football, certainly English football over here. They don't understand a club like Chelsea. You only got to look at some of the comments in the fanzines and online and listen to the Chelsea fans to actually hear their dissent towards them. This is a really good piece by Sam Wallace in the the Daily Telegraph you've got here. And again, that self-reflection piece. And the sporting directors have got to look at themselves. I mean, there are 5 sporting directors there. Do you really need that many? They've got to look at themselves. Have they got the experience? Have they got the nous? You look at the other clubs who've got leading sporting directors. They can do recruitment properly. And then you look at the pitch as well. I think the players have got to have some self-reflection as well. You looked at Enzo Fernandez, his body language as he was looking at the fans last night. He didn't look a player who was prepared to fight for the shirt. And whatever he thinks of the head coach, and clearly there were issues there, you are paid a lot of money and you owe it to those fans who travel all over the country to watch nonsense like they came up with last night, the Chelsea players. And so the players have got to look at themselves as well. They're good players there. You know, some of them have won World Cups. They were Club World champions last year. There's some good players, but they've let this club down. So this is a problem from top to bottom. And I'm afraid Liam Rosenior, and I wish him good luck in the future. And we look at Frank Lampard climbing back with Coventry, rebuilding a good career. You know, you wish Liam Rosenior luck, but he is just the symptom of the malaise at Chelsea, not the cause of it.
Back page of The Guardian, Chelsea Dagger was the headline, and they make reference to the fact that there was a bit of an outburst, wasn't there, by Liam Rosenior after the match. He really criticised his players, and they say Brighton outburst proves last straw as club put McFarlane in charge for the rest of the season. John, do you think that perhaps was the final act there for Liam Rosenior? I mean, once he said what he said to the media in public, it felt like the club's hierarchy didn't really have anywhere else to go with this one.
Yeah, Jess, I was at the game, and I saw his interview on Sky. Then he came into the main press conference and said similar. And I must say, sort of towards the end, I did sort of say, is this a gamble? Do you feel you can say this as a manager about your players, against your players, because do you push it too far? And look, he gave a very eloquent answer. He's a very, very eloquent and intelligent guy and very good coach. But I do feel as if he's been searingly honest. And amid the kind of news stories that I've written, 106 days, what sort of, I just do not understand how you can think that this is the right manager on January 6th. And then even before the end of April, think, okay, he's not for us. I mean, it's ridiculous. Give the guy a chance. If you're going to go down that route, have the courage of your conviction and actually give him an opportunity. And it really is, frustrating, I think. But I do feel as if I look back on those comments and yes, I'm sure they probably played into it. And yes, I do think they probably had a part to play in the decision today. The training ground, the hierarchy, having long conversations, making what they called a very difficult decision. It was a very difficult dilemma against a very honourable, good coach. There's no doubt about it. I agree with Henry completely in that basically Liam Rosenior will come back and I think he'll rise again. Make no mistake about that. But I do think his remarks were pointed. I think he just completely and utterly lost patience with a group which lacks leaders, lacks characters, lacks character, and lacks courage. I really do. And why is that? I think that's down to recruitment. I think it's partly down to the model. You're signing young players who lack experience, who lack, the know-how for a fight, the know-how that drags you and stops you from losing 5 in a row without scoring. And why is that? They're signing young players as assets. They're signing them so they can put them through the conveyor belt and put them around the revolving door so they can sell them again. It's that model. It's crash and burn. Look, it's worked to a point. It would be stupid to deny it because under Maresca, they won the Club World Cup, qualified for the Champions League, won a European trophy. You can't say that it's been a complete failure. But I tell you what, this system has failed Liam Rosenior. There's no two ways about that because they wanted to go in a certain direction. I like Liam Rosenior. I think he speaks really well. But honestly, when you've got players dictating, the manager terms and the future of the club in the way that they have, because they switched off for him last night, that I don't think the hierarchy should be looking at the manager. They should be looking at themselves. They should be looking at recruitment. They should be looking and doing background checks on characters. Shouldn't be signing them for their worth. They should be signing them as a football club rather than a business to build a proper football team, to take this team forward so that actually the fans who were there last night, and they were brilliant, by the way, it's the first time I've heard them turn on Liam Rosenior. And, I think you reach a point in time when you probably lose patience, and even their snap last night. But they deserve a lot better than they've been served. It's really, really, shocking the way that club has been running. I'm sorry. They've let everyone down there.
Yeah, you both make reference to the hierarchy there, Blueco. Wasn't it interesting in their statement how they said they would undertake a process of self-reflection? And look, we've got this piece on the Sky Sports website from Gary Neville on Liam Rosenior saying Chelsea owners don't have a clue. Fans will be disgusted with the situation. Henry, how much blame should Blueco and the Chelsea hierarchy be shouldering?
Well, I mean, the blame is spread throughout, from the dressing room to the dugout. Rosenior had his faults at the sporting directors. There's an element of inexperience there in terms of the players that they're bringing in. They're bringing in inexperienced players. They need some more grown-ups in the building. They particularly need them in the boardroom. So Gary's absolutely right when he says that Chelsea's owners don't have a clue. I mean, really, what is their background? Venture capitalists, well, they don't necessarily make good football people. So they've not taken the right advice. They've stepped in there and they've made some very strange appointments. And this is not simply about events on the pitch. You look at some of the, moving the seats around and issues like that. And it's interesting that, the reaction in America is, look, these guys know what they're doing. They do have experience in American sports. But English football is such a sort of febrile world, and you can slip out of the Champions League positions as Chelsea have done. And that is going to cost them so much money. Being in the Champions League is probably worth minimum of £80 million. Plus it's £3 million a position in the table. I'd be fascinated to know what Chelsea's future financial figures are going to be like. They run out of hotels to sell. Can they sell the women's team? Is there a women's reserve team that they can sell? They've also got the issue of Stamford Bridge. How do you rebuild that? The second point in the Gary Neville piece that you've got, that fans will be disgusted with the situation. I don't think they'll be too disappointed that Liam Rosenior's gone. As Crossy said, they did turn on him last night. They felt he was inexperienced. But I think they will be disgusted by Blueco's running of their club. It's their club. It's not Blueco's club. And maybe if Egg Barley, it'd be difficult for him at the moment, given the tension. But if he actually went and spoke to some of the Chelsea fans, stood on the shed or at the Matthew Harding Low and actually had a 5-minute chat with those Chelsea fans, would enlighten him and save him from losing hundreds of millions of pounds, which is what's going to happen.
And then, John, at some point, they're going to have to focus on what's actually happening on the pitch. A massive game coming up next for Chelsea, an FA Cup semi-final. It's against Leeds. And it's going to be a first-time manager in Callum McFarlane taking charge in his very first game. How does that end?
Well, he did have that sort of kind of brief sort of kind of semi-stint, didn't he, before, as between managers, I guess, really, and sort of, sort of charged again a little bit and sort of taken charge. Look, I can see why. I mean, look, you'd have to say now the Champions League places are out of reach, aren't they? But basically, maybe they can qualify almost by default if there's a slot passed down, if you like, by Villa. Winning the Europa. So let's see whether sort of kind of Chelsea could sneak back in. But current form would suggest not. But I do think then the FA Cup trophy I absolutely love. I still think absolutely should be at the heart of English football. It's there for Chelsea. It's, Leeds are, come on to them, I'm sure, in the second part, but basically Leeds are doing very nicely, thank you, so that's a hell of a semi-final for Chelsea on Sunday. But it does represent a chance for them to salvage their season. And that's the dilemma, isn't it? Chelsea today making it absolutely clear that they will not appoint, they will not think about, I'm sure they've got names in the frame, of course they have, until the summer. But I do think now they just want to focus on finishing well. Callum McFarlane in the building, was under 21s, if you like, and then stepped up and then basically joined Rosenior's coaching staff. He's down to, again, it just feels like player power has taken over that dressing room entirely. So will they accept him? Will they play for him? Honestly, there's a few players in there that need to be hanging their heads in shame, particularly after last night's performance. So maybe, just maybe, they feel as if they might owe the club and, most importantly, the fans some degree of performance at Wembley on Sunday.
Yeah, back page of The Sun. Blew it is their headline. Liam gone after 106 days. Now for Iraola, they say. Outgoing Bournemouth boss Andoni Iraola is a leading candidate to take over this summer, having already snubbed Crystal Palace twice. What's your take on this, Henry? Who might be in the mix for the permanent job at Chelsea?
Well, there's all these suggestions coming out of Brazil that Felipe Luis, who obviously the club know, he from his playing days there, he also apparently was on the shortlist when they appointed Rosenior, so there's a connection there. But he hasn't managed in the Premier League, and you got the impression that they wanted someone with that sort of experience. I mean, Iraola is a very intelligent individual, and firstly, there were suggestions that he was going to go back to Spain, but also he will look at the Chelsea structure, the setup, how much control does the head coach rather than a manager actually have over recruitment, and he's leaving a very well-run club and a very well-motivated team, and he's responsible for that in Bournemouth. Would he really want to go into a place, almost like almost a destroyer of managers that Chelsea can be? So I'm sure he'll look very carefully at it. Cesc Fabregas, I'm sure, will have his name floated, his connection with the club, but again, inexperienced.
OK, lots for Chelsea hierarchy to ponder on. OK, we're going to take a quick break. Thank you for the moment. When we come back, we'll be looking at more of the sports stories in the morning's newspapers, including this in the Mirror. As City go top, but did they miss a big opportunity to put more pressure on their title rivals, Arsenal? Hello again, you're watching Back Pages tonight, and welcome back to John Cross, the Mirror's chief football writer, and Henry Winter, co-host of the Football Boardroom podcast. OK, let's get to the back of John's newspaper, The Mirror, and talk the title race. City make turf work of going to Summit. And John, I'll come to you on this one because it did seem laboured in parts, didn't it, from Manchester City? They got the job done. They are on the top of the Premier League table, just.
Yeah, just. I mean, I must say, it was quite interesting. I watched the game, obviously, and City was so dominant. And I mean, Pep Guardiola was saying rather snappy with Juliet Ferrington, already kind of gone through the mill a little bit with Erling Haaland, basically, because I think it was a very, very fair question on her part to say, could you have scored more goals? Should you have scored more goals? And he just wanted to focus on the 3 points, really. But I do feel as if City will think it's an opportunity wasted. I mean, Guardiola's anxious to deny that. But I mean, when you look at the XG, it's kind of 3.5 plus. For City. I mean, didn't even get one for Burnley. That barely created a sort of kind of a chance or get a look in. I mean, that 94th minute corner, I'm sure for Burnley caused a few sort of nerves, if you like. But I think this was a game that people did see as if City would rack up the goals. Is going to be potentially, because they're both on the same points now, it's about a goal scored, it's about goal difference. It could come down to as thin a margin as that. So I do feel it's it's going to be one of those. It's potentially nip and tuck. Arsenal now have got 2 games in the Premier League before City play again. Can they apply some pressure? So I did feel as if City, who put so much into Sunday, may be lacking a little bit of spark. I do think they created so many chances, but were incredibly wasteful, no more so than O'Reilly right towards the end. And they probably see it as a bit of an opportunity wasted. I wonder how Arsenal actually view it, whether they kind of see it as a little bit of a boost before Saturday, or kind of, they're obviously off the top, which will hurt their pride for the first time in over 200 days. But equally, maybe it's given them a hope that, actually, City are, there and Arsenal are still in it.
Yeah, the psychology of it is fascinating. Henry, we're seeing the sports pages of the Daily Telegraph. Catch us if you can. City claim top spot off Arsenal. So where does this leave, then, the title race? How do Arsenal respond to this?
Well, they have to respond. And judging by the mood of Declan Rice with his comments, it ain't done, then it's still all to play for. But look, City have got momentum. They've got the players in form. They look fresh, inspired signing. OK, they've got the money to do it. But bringing Gabe in, bringing Semenyo in, you look at Haaland. I mean, it's quite amusing sort of asking Haaland and Juliet's questions. I agree with Crossy, were totally legitimate. I mean, Haaland has scored, 48 goals in 54 games for club and country this season. So I don't think he's been sort of shy in terms of contributing goals. But you look at them, I mean, O'Reilly, OK, there was that miss, but what a player he's been. I mean, I don't know whether Crossy's found this, but we've just been emailed for our contenders or our votes for Footballer of the Year. And I'm going to leave it as late as possible because there are at least 3 or 4 contenders from Manchester City, obviously Declan Rice and Gabriel from Arsenal. But you look at the way that Bernardo Silva's been playing and you think, well, why is he leaving this country? Because he's still got so much to give as a leader, contributing creatively, defensively. You saw that run back with Kai Havertz at the weekend, O'Reilly as well. And Haaland, I mean, he doesn't just score goals, he weighs them. I mean, there's so many of them that he's scoring. He's fantastic and a good role model as well. So, I think it will keep going. I mean, City do have a couple of difficult away games, and Arsenal deserve huge credit because they've got the 4th highest wage bill in the Premier League, and there they are pushing City all the way, and we know all about City's financial clout.
Yeah, we do. Well, you mentioned it there, the fact that Man City have some challenging away fixtures. They've got to go to the Hill Dickinson, for example, to face an Everton side that are chasing European football. But you look at Arsenal, they've got a massive match-up on this Saturday against Newcastle, which is live on Sky, John. There's so many key matches coming up. And I wonder whether we've actually had that definitive match that actually tells us who's going to win this title race.
Look, I thought the definitive match in all of this was on Sunday. I do still think that will ultimately prove decisive. I think that City, I've been saying it for a while, really, that basically I think City will win the treble. And I've seen nothing lately to change my mind, because I just think City have hit the front at the right time. They've hit form. I listened to Henry about sort of Football of the Year nominations, and I'll raise him Cherky as well. I think that basically there's about 4 or 5 that you could say have been absolutely fabulous. I mean, Cherky just gets me off the edge of my seat. I just think, what a player, what an absolute player. I just think he's a joy to watch. There's a few times tonight when he was sort of on the edge of the box, when he's kind of almost dancing around the ball and basically waiting him to take the next step to sort of drive into the penalty area. It's so exciting to watch. His goal on Sunday was marvellous, wasn't it? And basically fabulous performance. But look, at least we've got a title race worthy of the name. And then basically I think it's really, it's exciting now for the rest of the season. If City had blown Burnley away tonight, 5 or 6-0, they're relegated, and you feel sorry for Burnley. I looked at the empty seats tonight. That was quite a statement from Burnley fans, and so you've got to have sympathy with them. They're probably, tired of up and down, and sort of frustrations this season, but they really put it in tonight. And I'm afraid it's too little too late. But I do feel as if City have got the bit between their teeth. They've got that momentum. They've got that experience and that know-how, their mentality. And I think that probably gives them the edge in this title race. But it's thrilling, what a race we've got over the next few games.
Honestly, you can't take your eyes off it for a moment. It's utterly compelling. OK, let's get to the other Premier League fixture, where it was 2-2 between Bournemouth and Leeds. A late equaliser from Longstaff for Leeds in the 7th minute of injury time, Henry. It means that Leeds have picked up a very, very crucial point. They've now reached that magical 40-point mark. Have they done enough to secure Premier League football for next season?
Yes, it looks like it. 9 points clear of Spurs, and you look at the way that they've been playing pretty much since the half-time in the Manchester City game, when Farke, who was coming under a lot of pressure, there were headlines saying his job was under threat, or certainly under scrutiny, and he tweaked things. Okay, they didn't win that game, but then it just seemed to work. And they're playing for him. Obviously, they were away tonight, but that crowd is just, the noises from all around the ground, and that absolutely lifts the players. And you all see it. I mean, I hear Yorkshire's already on the march south for the weekend's game at Wembley. I know people who are flying in from the States, from all over, and the whole Leeds diaspora is because it's a cup semi-final. It's at Wembley. They want to support the team, but also it's because they sense something at Leeds. They sense the identity. They look at Ampadu and players like that, Calvert-Lewin, Okafor, players like that, who have just been outstanding this season, and others in defence as well. And they just look at them and they think they're playing for the shirt. And, it's been a bit of a theme about us debating Chelsea tonight, and they're playing for them at the weekend. And I'll tell you what, if Chelsea aren't up for it, Leeds will have them.
Yes, they will. Henry Winter and John Cross, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your company. Now, if you missed any of the show, there's another chance to see Back Pages at hour. It's also available as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can join us again on Thursday night. Our guests will be Martin Hardy and Carl Anker.